Robin Pod is powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre. Make them your first and only choice for a vast array of vehicle services. They are a reputable East Hull-based car specialist and dedicated to providing quality services at reasonable prices. And don't forget, they are trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. Find them at 146 Leeds Road and ask them about the exclusive discount they offer Hull KR Rovers Forever members. Welcome to this week's edition of the Robin Pod, your go-to podcast for all things Hull Kingston Rovers. In this episode, we'll take a closer look at the Robins' impressive round 15 victory over Castleford Tigers, a performance full of great determination and attacking flair. We'll also be turning our attention to this week's big home fixture as Wakefield Trinity make their trip to Sulbrook Craven Park. There's good news on the injury front too, as Rhyse Matin has been named in the 21-man squad for the first time since February. We'll have all the latest on his return and what it could mean for the team. And finally, we delve into the exciting new partnership between Hull KR and NRL side North Queensland Cowboys. What could this link up bring for the future of the club? And don't forget, Steve Till joins us once again for Robins Revisited. All that and more on this week's Robin Pod. Let's get into it. Joining me this week is Gary Lee and Max Dawson. Gary, before I introduce Max, of course, there's always so much going on, isn't there? It's a good time to be a Robin.
It's always, isn't it? The last couple of years, it just seems like it just gets better and better. And I'm really envious. And I'm going to show my age now. I'm really envious of anybody who's kind of become a Rovers fan, supporter, member in the last 5 years, because you've really joined at the right time. It's absolutely brilliant. And we won't go on about the past and what happened. We all know. But yeah, I think it's absolutely a fantastic time to be a Rovers fan, isn't it?
Yeah, and Max, Gary mentioned about potentially people who've been supporting the Robins over the last 5 years. What a great time it is to be a Robin. Of course, we need more and more supporters jumping on the bandwagon, don't we? Because more supporters means more people through the turnstiles. It means more people buying merchandise. It means more people getting behind the boys. You know, let's encourage it. Let's embrace it.
Yeah, it does mean bigger queues at the bar, though. That's another thing.
Well, on that note, maybe not, Max. Particularly at Craven Park, maybe if we could limit a few people. Yeah, you're right, because the beer queues are getting bigger, and that's not happy. Not a lot of people pleased by that.
I think I'm one of the only people actually that don't drink at Rovers, because I usually jump back in the car straight away and come home. So I might have one very early on, you know, when I first get there, but I really don't. And I see these people walking around with 2-pint pots and stuff, and I'm like, Christ, come on.
Yeah. It's all well and good drinking at the game until you can't remember the game. You got to watch it back again.
Yeah, hey, and I tell you what, Max, there's nothing better at the moment than watching it back, is there? Because the highlight reels, the full game replays, you know, they're an absolute joy to watch. You know, now you want to watch the highlights, don't you? Because a few years ago, you wouldn't be tuning in. Now, you know, the tries were scoring, the points were scoring. It is like a proper highlights reel. And we're going to talk about the Castleford game. Of course we are. Another big victory, 48 points to 0 against Castleford. It's not just the scorelines, is it, Max? It's the tries we're scoring.
Yeah.
It's so pleasing on the eye.
Yeah, it's good. It's good rugby to watch, isn't it? And it's champagne rugby. It's rugby that we used to watch Wigan and Saints play and think, oh, it'd be good to watch Rovers play like that. And now it's reality, isn't it? It's brilliant.
Yeah, Gary, I mean, Max said it's rugby that Wigan and Saints used to play. This is the rugby league you was probably brought up on, particularly in the 80s, where we used to see
baggy shirts.
Yeah, well, maybe not so much the baggy shirts, but the rugby league that was on offer, the free-flowing attacking play, the offloads, the trust in the centre and wing play. You know, this is what you was brought up on, wasn't it?
I think it's when you're watching it, when you're watching it live, it's really great to see. And then when you watch on the highlights or the game when you get home, and when you watch all the players, 9 tries, wasn't it, against Castleford? And I know we're going to talk about that in a minute, but some of those tries, every single player was in motion and you knew what was coming, and it was absolutely fantastic. It's real proper, like Max said, you're watching the Wigan and Saints of old, but now it's Rovers now, isn't it? It's brilliant, you know?
Yeah, I tell you what, let's look at that Cass v Rovers game then. 48 points nil, 20-0 up at half time. I mean, a big thing was, you know what, it frustrated me a little bit, Max, because a lot of people were talking about, you know, you go to Cass, it's a smaller pitch, you know, it's going to suit Castleford. I was looking at it going, well, a smaller pitch, because the way we attack, a smaller pitch means we get more opportunity to go up their try line.
Yeah.
Almost as if Cass were going to take advantage of that. And I thought, no, the Robins are smart enough. The way we attack, the way we play, a smaller pitch gives us more opportunity to score more points.
Yeah, especially with all the pit. We've got a bit of pace now as well, haven't we? When a few years ago, we didn't seem to have a lot of pace. So now we can burn teams on, good in it.
Yeah, Gary, I mean, you look at the strike threat we posed. When you look at the lineup, Artamorg, of course, at fullback, Tom Davis, 𝗵𝗂𝗧, Jack Broadbent, another appearance for Noah Booth, Lewis and May in the halves, Sue, Litton at hooker, starting hooker, Dean Hadley then moving into the props, Jai Whitbread, James Batchel, Chella, and then the bench, of course, luckily, Tanganoa, Brown, Leyland. But them strike players out on the edges, they're so important. You only have to look at the tries we scored, especially in that first half, to see how potent our edge play is, particularly that left with Mikey Lewis controlling. You know, and don't forget as well, that was a left edge that had Noah Booth coming in, who's he's played a few games for the Robins, but he looks like a player who's just played, you know, like he's been playing for the Robins for the last 2-3 years. Seamless, but I think that's the quality of the side, isn't it? That he's able to slot in and be so effective.
He's got that. I've wrote down the tries here. I've wrote down the last 3 because I watched it and I was a bit sad, and I thought I'd write something down this time. So I've wrote down.
I tell you what, maybe I need to take some advice off you, Gary, because if that's what you're doing, maybe I need to start following suit.
1, 2, 3, 4. 4 tries there. It was May. So the first try, May Lewis Broadbent, May Broadbent Booth, May Morg Davies, and then May Lewis Broadbent. And it's kind of like who's the third pass before the try. Everything's going through May. And I know you mentioned Noah Booth there. Noah Booth reminds me of Michael Owen. Remember when he played against Argentina? No fear, just did it. Those steps, that goal he scored, and Noah Booth's the same. I think he's got that. He's got that benefit of being young and having no fear. And once he gets the ball, he's rapid, isn't he? He's really, really quick.
And I suppose Max as well. Gary's right. That's backed up as well by his physical presence. He's a big kid. He's a young kid, but he's a big kid, and also. I mean, you only have to look at the first try that he scored. What a finish to put it down where he did. For me, where I was stood in the terrace at Castleford, when he put it down, I thought, do you know what? There's no way he scored that. And then the video referee obviously then replays it, and you see the ball go down. What a finish that was! And you know, on the Robin Pod of the last few weeks that Noah Booth has been playing, we've talked a lot about him. And Willie Peters gets asked about him nearly every press conference now about his acceleration to the first team. But he is looking the part, isn't he?
Yeah, and it takes bollocks to dive in a corner like that, because once you've dived, there's not more you can do. You've just got to sort of pray like you don't get killed. And the problem we've got now is that we're that good of a team that the young ones that come through, they need to be up there. And Noah's in that team because he's up there. He's a bit raw, but he's still got that, what you need, hasn't he? He's still got the rugby league-ness about him. Yeah,
and I think as well, to be fair, Gary, what I like about Willie Peters, like I think we mentioned it on the Robin Pod very early on in the season. about Willie Peters knows his strongest team. So I think one of the questions posed to him in the pre-game press conference this week was, we're going to come on to the Wakefield game, is Burgess is in the squad. Will he be will he come back in, or is Noah Booth done enough to retain his place? That kind of. And Willie Peters was very strong about, no, Booth is doing well, but we have a first team. And if Burgess is fit, Burgess plays. But the skill of a coach is to still keep Noah Booth happy, knowing that basically, if Joe Burgess is fit, he's out the team. That's it.
Yeah,
but what Willie Peters really does well, and what the rest of the coaching staff do, is still keep that cohesive team, that unit, that the fact that they're players who, of course, they're not happy they're getting dropped, but they're happy to be in the squad, they're happy to be part of it, and they understand the long plan. They understand.
I think he's got that, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's got that. Well, that's what he gets paid to do. He's built that in the squad and the whole kind of Rovers team, and I'm talking about the off-field team as well. I think he's built that into everybody, hasn't he? That puts on that shirt or comes to work. That it's a team effort. It's as in the wider team, So if you're squad number 34, you'll get your chance, and when you get your chance, you take it. But when you're on that pitch, you are part of the success of the whole of Hull Kingston Rovers, and I think he's built that into the squad, hasn't he?
Yeah, and Max, I mean, if you look at the first half, it was 20-0 at half time. Castleford, don't get me wrong, they did put a defensive effort up, but at half time, you're already going, this could be anything, couldn't it? Because what Rovers did is the way they spread the ball out, there was almost scoring when they wanted to score, as daft as that sounds. They were sucking Castleford in, and then ultimately, what backed that up was the defensive effort as well. So at no point really did Castleford look like they was going to really threaten us. Yeah, they had spells where they had a bit of possession, but ultimately Rovers were able to shut them out. 20-0 at half time, and already we're going, well, it's 20-0 now. This could be anything come at the end of the second half.
Now, Rovers are confident enough in the defence that they don't need to put all the points on them in the first 20 minutes, do they? Where a few years ago, we could score some good tries, but our defence went up there, so we had to try and score as many as we could just to make sure that we couldn't get caught. Where now we know that we're confident enough in our defensive team to know that we don't have to put all the points in the first half, and that we can play the game for the full 80 now, and it's good to watch.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that starting lineup as well. Don't forget, I mean, we're going to talk about Dean Hadley, Gary. Dean Hadley starting the props with Jesse Sue. Hadley, 17 carries, 141 metres, 37 tackles. Dean Hadley's like the machine, isn't he? He just literally just keeps going and going and going and going. And do you know what? I reckon you could put Dean Hadley on the wing, and he'd probably get a try.
He'd still give you
He'd still get something. Like, honestly, he's a player that epitomises for me everything that's great about Rovers. He's quite unassuming.
Yeah, he just gets on with it, doesn't he?
But what he does, he does his talking on the pitch in terms of his performance. And like I said, he could play any position and he'd probably do a decent job. And I think people in that squad, people on the East End, people at Craven Park respect Dean Hadley because he's so unassuming he just goes about his job, but he does it to such a great level. And I think that's the epitome of the team.
Yeah, I think he's one of those players, isn't he? When you notice that he's moved from prop, when Minnie went off, Minnie Cello went off for a bit near the end, and Dino's slotted in there. You're like, hang on a minute, fucking Minnie's gone off. Oh, it's Dean. Yeah, that's why Dino's getting a lot of the ball now and passing it through. And he just goes about his business, doesn't he? And I know we all sing his name and stuff like that because he does put, you've said there, look, 17 carries, 141 metres, 37 tries. That's unbelievable, really, for a for somebody who stays on for 80 minutes in as a forward, moving around, it's absolutely fantastic, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you what, Max, the first try at the second half. I mean, what's really interesting, and like you said, we're going to talk about the Wakefield team news very soon. 𝗀𝗽𝗋𝗴𝗲, not only did he score a try, he had a sidestep. Now, I remember when we signed him from Wakefield as an out-and-out prop, and Willie Peters has transformed him into this second row, who's not only able to do big minutes, he's doing big carries, he's making big meters, and he's doing big tackles as well, 25 tackles. The evolution of Whitbread is amazing, and the tries he's scoring, he's probably far ahead of any expectations that he had in terms of try scoring. But he doesn't look out of place, does he now? He looks like he's played there for the last 5 seasons.
He's even got a bit of pace on him as well, hasn't he? There's been a few times where he's got up and into a bit of clean space, and no one's really caught him, have they? Obviously he's not going to make it the full way, but he has got that. He can get his head down, put a few meters through, can't he?
Yeah, and I tell you what, Gary, the big thing about Rovers is not just the points they score, but it's how quickly they score the points. So if you look at the second half, for instance, Noah Booth goes in on the 65th minute, Hicko on the 69th, Davis on the 72nd. You know, that 7-minute spell, three tries, literally just puts the game to bed. And that's what the Robins are so good at. When they get a sniff of it, they go for it. And not only do they go for it, they execute it so well.
They're really good at it, aren't they? I'll just go back to the Whitbread try. When you watch it back, when you've got nothing to do and you want a bit of a nana nap in the afternoon, put the Rovers highlights on. Whitbread's try.
Hey, what, Gary? If I want a nap, I won't be putting Rovers highlights on. It would keep me. That's half the problem for me, Gary. I put them on late at night, and then I can't go back to sleep because I'm
just auto plays on YouTube. Yeah, just auto plays. The next thing you're watching the Challenge Cup final again. Anyway, Whitbread's try. There was one of about. He was one of about 3 players that could have picked that up. You know, despite the fact it looked like Noah Booth was going to go in, and then he threw that pass inside, didn't he? The three Rovers players kept going, thinking that if something happened, like Davies in the final, if something happens here, we're going to get that. He was 1 of 3. Yeah, but that 3 tries in 7 minutes. I think that's we used to do that, like Max said, didn't we? We used to do that in the first 20 minutes. You know, bang, 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 get 3 tries. We'd get 1 try maybe after 10 minutes, and then another couple after that, hoping our defence, you know. But now we're doing it at various points in the game just to kill the game off. I think it was a.
Yeah, Max, I'll tell you what. When you look at that game, Max, what was your expectations? Was you expecting a blowout score like 14-0, or did you think it was tougher than what it was?
To be honest, I thought it was going to be a bit of a grind, to be fair, because with Cass in recent times, it's not really been an happy hunting ground, really, has it? We've had some. I think is it the past 2 times we've played them, we've only won and beaten by a point or something like that.
Well, you only have to look back to last season with the 𝗀𝗏𝗏 and drop goal to see how it can be. But this Rover side, Max, they're a different beast now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like everything you've gone before, you know, your own. You know, when you used to look back and you go, oh, you know, we never do well at this side, or when we go across to the northwest, we don't do that great. All that's just blown out the water, isn't it, right now?
Yeah. And Castleford was on a high as well. They just beat them, aren't they? So
that's not the biggest result, though, is it? To be fair,
no, true.
Yeah, you know, maybe
that fake grass had been playing on, innit?
Yeah. So, but I tell you what, there's some standout performances. Jack Broadbent, I think he got the Sky Sports Man of the Match, didn't he, for his efforts, 2 tries, I think 2 assists. I mean, Gary, that I tell you what secured their breakfast on the back of the 0 was that Jack Broadbent tackle. And for me, we talked about, I've just mentioned Dean Hadley epitomises the spirit and everything about Hull Kingston Rovers. Well, for me, that tackle epitomised everything about the desire of the Robins, the willingness to defend, the never give up, to keep going. It's a great lesson for. I was lucky enough to be there with my son, who's 9, who plays rugby league. I said to him, that is why you never give up, because you never know when you just might disrupt.
You just not get up there, yeah.
Get up there, just make the difference. If you don't, do you know what? At least you tried. I tell you what, though, the more you try, the more you will stop it. And that Jack Broadbent, Cine, it was a great break from any senior. I mean, obviously, Willie Peters will look back at that. He won't be happy with
4 tackles broke.
Yeah, the tackles that senior did evade, but that last one is a great example of why you just never give up. And
when you watch it back, the Sky commentator said this at the end, I think, in the wash up and stuff. When you watch, there's a wide shot of senior breaking. I think he just broke the last tackle, but he went past Hickle, didn't he? I think, and you can see Broadbent with his head down, literally got his head down, running. You know, like you used to run back to your mum's for tea at 5 o'clock, running, and it's that determination. And like you said, John, show that little bit to anybody who wants to, any aspiring youngster who wants to know how to play rugby league and never give up. Just show them that little minute of him running back to with his head down. It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what,
he got his just rewards, didn't he, in the end?
And I'll tell you what, I mean, I'm only assuming, but I bet that got celebrated out of all the 9 tries that were scored and the great pieces of play. I reckon that will got celebrated either equally or more than the tries that were scored, because it wasn't pivotal, because it didn't change. Even if he had scored it, it wouldn't have changed the scoreline in terms of Castleford going on to win. But that, I think, is what Willie Peters will play to the team to go, this is what we're about. We don't stop. We don't give in. And a little bit, Max. So you take that moment from the Castleford game. We go to the Challenge Cup final about playing to every minute. You know, every minute counts. We go to the 78th minute. Rovers go score a try. What Rovers are really good at is getting their moments right, the moments that count. And like I said, you know, it's a fantastic moment. That try that was scored against Warrington in the Challenge Cup final. And it was another fantastic moment when we stopped that try, because, like Gary said, the Sky commentators, I've watched it back, it was just assumed a try. Just assumed a try. Yeah.
To be fair, and they deserve that try as well, because not many people just run through Davis, and especially Iku, do they? Not many people leave Iku on his ass.
No, there was hanging on. Well, they weren't hanging on. They couldn't even get close, could they? There was flapping, and not only that, senior made great then meters down the middle, and you look like it was going to be. The commentators thought it was a try, and I think fair credit to the match officials for the way that they played it. It was funny because if you've watched it, Elliot Minchella goes straight to Moore to say it's not a try, and Moore says, "No, hang on, I've got to go through a process. Like, I've got, you know." And it was as someone who, you know, loves rugby league, you want that, you need that process, and it got it right. And but yeah, great moment from Broadbent. And to be fair, when you look at it, Max, Broadbent probably was deserving of the man of the match. We're going to ask a question. I'll tell you what, we'll ask it now.
Rovers Player of the Year.
Rovers Player of the Year so far, Max. Where are you at with players? Who you think could be?
I mean, there's you can make a point for any player at the minute, couldn't you?
Well, I'll tell you what. You make a point for the one you think could be Player of the Season.
I'll go. I'll say it. I'll go for at the minute. I'll say, because someone's going to say it, Mikey Lewis, because of that kick at Wembley.
Yeah.
The 2040. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Gary, if you look over the course of the season, I mean, there's been some great performances, haven't there? There's been some really consistent performances. Who would you go for, Gary, right now?
Yeah, I've actually got it written down, Jono, and highlighted. I've got my 3. So I've got May first, Broadbent, then Lytton. Yeah. Just because, May for me is just is all round performances. And he looks like, doesn't he? When you're watching, and this is my mitigation, when you're watching him, he looks like he's just not doing. We've spoke about this before, haven't we? He just is so cool and calm and time. He just seems to have loads of time on the ball, and he never wants to get tackled, and he always tries to offload it, which is quite frustrating, but quite good in a way. But yeah, for me, it's May just because of his 80-minute all-round performances. Yeah.
Yeah. You won't be happy with his 6 missed tackles on Thursday. But that's how high the bar is set. For me, I'm toiling. I love 𝗪𝗓𝗄𝗃. I just think do you know what he does for the side? His leadership over the course of the first third of the season, everything, the way he conducts himself, what he brings to the team. But for me, Broadbent, for someone who doesn't actually have a designated position in the team, he just every time he plays, he just comes up with some either clutch plays, he comes up with some defensive effort, he comes up with tries, he comes up with assists. He's a player who's just seamlessly fitted into the side, regardless of what position he plays. I mean, it's interesting, as we ask that question, the Man of Steel points are now going to be blind, so we're not going to see them to the end of the season. At the moment, Jake Connors leading the way. Essay from that lot, he's second. I think Michael Lewis is down in 5th. We're not going to know who's won the Man of Steel award now until the end of the season, when it's...
And the Catalans player still up there as well.
Well, Nick Cottridge, who for me is one of the unfittest.
He's not done out.
So look, there's a long, long way to go. And I do think ultimately the teams who end up near the top at the end of the season, them players will gravitate to. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it, to see who people think have done so well. And it's really interesting, Hull KR, he brought up a great stat that mentioned that 𝗬𝗏𝗏 is already the top point scorer for our side, discounting the fact he's not been able to play in the Challenge Cup. So 𝗬𝗏𝗏, where could he be? Where could he be at the end of the season? What a contribution he's already made to the side. And I'll tell you what, Max, a fast fullback is so important, isn't it, to a successful side? Yeah,
because he comes out wide and he steps back in. I think he's always done that first tackler.
Yeah,
and I think he's small but quick, and he's got a bit of oomph to him as well, hasn't he? For a little bloke, he rolled over that line, didn't he? He was held up, but he still got over it, didn't he?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Gary. 𝗂𝗓𝗋𝗆 was good.
Yeah.
𝗬𝗏𝗏's great. And that's no discredit to 𝗂𝗓𝗋𝗆s, but 𝗬𝗏𝗏 is and the transfer dealings that we've done normally is to better the team. And you don't want to talk about players who've gone before, because at the time, 𝗂𝗓𝗋𝗆s, George King, for example, they did an amazing job at that time. But the players who then replaced them then just took us up that next year. And 𝗬𝗏𝗏's another one who just took us up to another level.
There was a bit of an intake of breath, wasn't there, when Evalds left? People were like, wow, because he was so good.
Yeah.
So good at returning the ball. Every fullback drops a ball now and again. I don't care who you are, And then when Mould came in, airy, because he was going to be with us anyway, wasn't he? He came in airy, and he's just fitted right in. He's 11th, by the way, on the Man of Steel listings at the minute.
He could propel himself forward, couldn't he? He could propel himself forward.
Maybe.
Max, looking back at that Cas game, of course, there was a host of former Robins in the side. So Luke Senior, Sam Woodrow, Milnes, Chris Atkin, George Griffin. Maybe the future Robin, most sides were on. In Tom Amon, 27 tackles, 10 carries, 84 metres, average gain of 8 metres. I think pre-game, it was all about how difficult he is to play against. We probably didn't see him have his best game, but he's a good player playing in the struggling side. You looking forward to seeing Tom Amon next season in the red and white of Hull Kingston Rovers?
Can't wait. Him and 𝗬𝗂𝗧, there's going to be some starting props. I mean, when you play in a team, when a team like Rovers plays a team like Cass, and no offence, but when they get dominated like that, especially, it's hard to pick out anyone unless they do something really good, like senior. That you're always going to spot that. But when it's the effort areas and things, you don't see him, do you, when you're getting dominated like that? So, but yeah, he'll come in and he'll do a job for Rovers, because I think Tom Amon, he could do any team in Super League would want Tom Amon, I think, and I think Lee would be a bit gutted that he didn't go back to them.
Yeah,
but,
I think they mucked up there, didn't they? I think they mucked up on letting him go. And Gary, I tell you what, final word on the Cass game. We mentioned Tom Davies, 24 carries, 245 metres. Most people probably, unless they've looked at the stats, won't realise that 𝗀𝗂𝗡𝗂𝗧 was second in the metre rankings with 195 metres from a second rower from 18 carries, which is incredible, really, isn't it? So when and
he came on a sub as well. He was sub. He's a sub.
Exactly.
He
started on the interchange bench, so he's not only did he not start, he was on the bench, and he played on a inverted commas smaller pitch. And for a second rower to make that many metres, absolutely fantastic. And he's another one where you could go, not necessarily play this season, but someone who's so integral to the side. He'll be one that when he don't play, you really do miss him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I've personally, this is why I'm not a rugby league coach in the Super League. I don't think he gets.
Well, this is the only reason, Gary. Is this the only reason?
The only reason. It's the only reason. Yes. I don't think he gets enough minutes personally, but Willie knows best. When you look at those two stats there for Davies and Tanganoa, can you imagine having been a ball player or a hooker? Knowing you're going to give the ball to one of those two players and they're going to make over 10 metres, it's absolutely fantastic, isn't it? It's such a confidence. It must give the halves real confidence when they're passing to those players, I think. Yeah.
And it must give the defence nightmares because they know what's coming. And there's one thing knowing what's coming, it's another thing stopping it. that's the thing. Yeah. Right. Let's bring Steve Till in for Robins Revisited. Steve, thank you so much for waiting patiently.
It's like a doctor's waiting room trying to get on this show.
Well, to be fair, Steve, you've just been to the dentist, so you'll know all about that in terms of waiting. Yeah. No, people won't realise the length we have to go to record this. And so great appreciation for you, Steve, especially for Robins Revisited, because it's another special one when we take on Wakefield. So what have you got for us this week?
I'm going to go back 50 years. Season 74-75, Rovers were in the second division and they got to the final of what was a major trophy, the Yorkshire Cup. Well, we played Wakefield Trinity and it was played at Headingley and it was played in front of 5,000 people. A lot of people think that the crowds were massive in the 70s. They weren't. Rovers to get, we're talking about a Yorkshire Cup final at Headingley got 5,000. Some of the earlier rounds, we played at Bradford. There was 2,300 there at Odsall. Can you imagine that? So there's a fallacy about crowds back in those days. The crowds just weren't there. And Rovers' average would be about 4,000 or 5,000. Anyway, we got to the final of the Yorkshire Cup, and I'm just looking at the team sheets, and the Rovers signed 3. We were in the second division, by the way. Wakefield were in the first division, And Rovers had signed 3 players for next to out. And what signings they were: Bernard Watson, ex-Leeds, Clive Sullivan, and Neil Fox, the biggest point scorer in the history of the game. And he played second row against the team that he played for, scoring most of those points. And in the Wakefield team was 𝗬𝗂𝗋𝗄𝗏. And the captain of the Wakefield team was Mick Morgan. And we all know who Mick Morgan is in relation to Noah Booth, his Noah's grandfather. So 2 strong teams, and they battled it out in the first half. The first half finished 7-5 to Wakefield. And the game was ebbing and flowing. But luckily, well, rather not luckily, but with the way they played, Rovers came out on top 16-13 with tries from Jed Dunn, the aforementioned Bernard Watson, who scored 2, and George Kirkpatrick. Neil Fox kicked 2 goals, and some others names from Rovers past that Oldens like me will remember. Phil Copeland played centre. He turned out to be a black and white. He'd supported Hull. He played for Rovers for a long time, then went back to the dark side. We had a guy called George Kirkpatrick. George was a winger, a gangly. I'm not sure if he's not a Scotsman, but Rovers was skippered by Roger Millward, and the name Mike Stevenson was at scrum half. Not the Mike Stevenson off Sky, but Mike Stevenson was a bloody good player, a good halfback. John Millington was Rovers prop. Paul Rose, another prop. And then Cliff Wallace was physio when Rovers got to Wembley. Cliff, good second row forward. And then we'd also signed a guy from the dark side, Joe Brown. What a ball handling forward he was. So, and Ian Madley, he played in the second row. He came on a substitute for Neil Fox. All in all, it was a terrific day. I remember the day very well. It was a hard-fought game, but Rovers came on top 16-13. Great days.
As always, great memories from Steve Till. Now, Steve is a great friend of somebody who's very familiar with a lot of people who listen to the Robin Pod. That is, of course, Justin Morgan. Gary, great news to hear about this partnership. We've struck up with the North Queensland Cowboys. Lots of synergy between what they do and what the Robins are doing. It's just another step in the right direction in terms of improving, enhancing, making things better for Hull Kingston Rovers, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. I've wrote down here, what does it actually mean, right? Because I knew it was. I'd heard about it, and I'd listened to the interviews, and I'd read a little bit about it, and it's a really good partnership that's not really player focused. It's really good. It's all about back offices and pathways, and I think it's they're going to meet, the CEOs are going to meet each other every couple of months, so it's a nice holiday for one of them at least every couple of months. A bit tongue in cheek, but yeah, I think what it shows is, doesn't it? It shows that we're a team on the up and can make these partnerships. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I think it can only be a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose, Max, we come on the Robin Pod and talk about beating Castleford, great result, great performance from the team, the coaching staff, everything. But ultimately, the coaching staff and the players are only able to do what they do because off the fields, everything's so good for them. The infrastructure behind the scenes, The things that as supporters, when we're sat in the north stand, when we're stood in the east stand, if you're in the west stand, we just see the players playing, the coaches coaching. Actually, this is a partnership that aims to elevate the club onto another level. So it's more about your off-field stuff. I don't know. Your retail, your tickets, your match day experience, all that stuff that goes around the team that we don't see. And any time that you're linked with an NRL side, Max, it's a positive, isn't it? Because they are the leaders, the benchmark. They're far beyond what we do in Super League.
Yeah.
And the fact that we've formed this partnership is another good step, I think.
Yeah, it's mental, isn't it? Because there's some rugby league royalty that's come out with Cowboys. You got Jonathan Thurston, aren't you? And he's even just to be linked with the same club that he played for. It's mental, especially because Rovers aren't being a club like your Wiggins or your Saints or your Leeds, where they've always sort of been up there recently. Rovers they've had to get their head down and they've had to work. So to take notes off the top tier of the game, the pinnacle, it's brilliant because it's not been easy to get to where Rovers are now. So and what is a good thing as well is that the Cowboys, they're probably going to learn just as much off us as we're going to learn off them.
I'll tell you what, Max, you've made a great point there. You have made a great point. This isn't just about us going cap in hand to an NRL side and going, what can you give us? What can we learn from you? It's a two-way partnership. It's about also them seeing some of the things that we do. I say we. What Hull Kingston Rovers do, the staff do, and also how can they learn? Now, they're saying over their budgets are completely different to what we do. We have, but what they've seen is we do things in a certain way, and they've gone, yeah, actually, why don't we do it that way? Why? How can we benefit? So it's a two-way.
Why don't we go for a free breakfast?
Yeah. It's a great point. And I tell you what, as well, if you're going to Las Vegas, the Cowboys, of course, they're playing there. I think the Robins and Cowboys supporters are pretty much side by side. So there's great synergy there. And I think they're going to do an unopposed training session between the two sides in Vegas. So I expect there's going to be something that comes on the back of that in terms of giving supporters who are going over there the opportunity to view that. And, of course, there must be a merchandise range.
Yeah. There will be a 50-50 kit going about.
I wrote that there. Yeah. Merchandise. Yeah, it says here that they're going to do an opposed session in the build-up to the big day. Larkin said...
Larkin. Philip Larkin would have done it in poetry.
Yeah,
if it was him.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, I know. He says, the Cowboys like us, we operate slightly outside the traditional bubble.
Yeah, and I think that's how synergies come about, hasn't it?
Yeah,
they're not necessarily two clubs that I don't know, inverted commas, mainstream, but so it's going to be great. And honestly, I do think that for all them people who are going to Las Vegas like I am, there's going to be some interesting things that come about, and I reckon this is going to be one of them, about the opportunity to see that. So fingers crossed. Where do we go? We've got lots to talk about. Wakefield up next. Let's talk about Danny Richardson going out on loan, Max. Obviously, if Mikey Lewis and Tyrone May fit, Danny Richardson doesn't play. So the fact that he can go to Salford for 2 weeks, get sharpened up again in the event of Mikey Lewis or Tyrone May get injured, and it's a good deal, isn't it?
Richardson is too good not to not be playing, I think, as well, because he's come from Saints, hasn't he? He's not like he would if he's. I mean, he's got his opinions, hasn't he? If you follow me on Twitter and that, but he's got the talent in him, and for him not to be playing, it's also a bit of a waste because at the end of the day, he's getting paid to sit in the stands, isn't he? Really?
Well,
So,
I'll tell you what, Max. It's a position where you need to be sharp, don't you? Like you need to be on it. You can't. It's like if you're not fit. I mean, if you're not match ready, it tells because.
And if he's coming in every day,
to the team.
If he's coming into training every day, knowing he's not going to be playing, it must take the edge off a little bit, because he's like, well, I mean, he probably won't think like that, because at the end of the day, they are professional athletes, aren't they? But it must have some impact on you to know, like, you're going in, you're grafting, to then sit and watch. And Salford, it's not a bad club for him to go to either, because he could make a difference there. I mean, he's...
Yeah. And also, you don't know what might happen in the next couple of weeks.
Exactly.
And I think as well, Gary, I mean, we're talking about players who are in, obviously, the first team squad. Fringe players, though. Lee Kershaw, devastating, doesn't it seem? I mean, ACL, 9 months. He's not going to be back ready in training until pre-season, next season for 2026. Of course, he's not a player who's featured that regularly for the Robins, and I think we signed him as a backup player. But any player who suffers such a devastating injury, it's hard for them to take. And you don't know where this one goes, because I think he's the funny thing is, Gary, like a lot of the players, very popular around the camp, and I think Lee Kershaw one. But nobody wants to see a player get an injury like that.
Yeah, I think nobody wants to see any player getting injured, unless you're an opposing fan and it's 𝗫𝗂𝗧𝗏 𝗧𝗏, which is we can talk about that all day, can't we? Yeah, I think his season's done now, isn't it? And like you say, he's going to be back pre-season, but I think he's just one of those players, isn't he, in the background, popular. But he's ready. I think he'll be ready next year to make his start. I think he's just a bit of a knockback in it, and he's not one of those players who's front and centre every week. But it's just not a nice injury to have. And knowing you're going to be on the sidelines for 9 months I think you just got to get on with it, haven't you? Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Before we talk about the squad news ahead of Wakefield at home on Friday. Max, the Wakefield victory over Wigan certainly worked in the Robins' favour, didn't it? Because in my head, I was just thinking of all Rovers need to do is have a scenario where we play them in August, we can afford to lose. And if we lose, we're still top of the table. Well, that Wakefield victory certainly plays into that, in terms of the way that the Robins are playing right now. And it was unforeseen, wasn't it? Many people didn't expect it.
Yeah. And to be fair to Wakefield, they deserved to win as well, didn't they? And I think Wigan as well, there was very lucky to beat Huddersfield. I mean, Huddersfield let that game go, but...
Oh, mate, that was devastating, wasn't it? I mean, was it literally the last...
Literally, on the
last second of the game. Like, I mean, that's sport. We can't moan because we beat Warrington in the Challenge Cup final. But that was That
was gutting, that, wasn't it? It was like watching Rovers lose, wasn't it?
Well, we've been there before, haven't we? We've been there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, that Wakefield victory, although many people might not have seen it coming, it was welcomed, wasn't it, with open arms.
Yeah.
It's one of those games you were watching, weren't you? And you're like, come on, don't fade now. Please don't fade for the last 20 minutes or whatever. And it was absolutely brilliant to watch.
Yeah, and it's very similar, Gary, to the performance that Wakefield put in against Rovers back at the, right at the start of the season.
Game 2.
Really, Rovers were hanging on for the victory come the end of it. I think it was Ollie Pratt, wasn't it, who came in with a try, and the Robins were hanging on. So it was a great victory for them. Let's go into the Wakefield games. So 7th in the league, Gary. They've won 8. They've lost 7. They're probably doing a lot better than most people would have expected at this stage of the season. I actually think they're probably better than where they actually are in the league when you look at some of the teams who are in front of them. What was interesting about Wigan, I was going to say, Gary, what was really interesting about the victory over Wigan, though, was the fact that Mike McMeekin wasn't playing. Now, for me, he's been one of the standout players for them this season. The way he's led the line has been absolutely phenomenal. For a player of his age as well, he's been phenomenal. I'm delighted to see him not in the squad against us. I don't mean that disrespectfully in terms of course, I don't want, but what I mean is because of what he's done for Wakefield, he definitely, for me, weakens that side. But despite that, they still got that victory over Wigan, didn't they? So it's this Wakefield side who are buoyed by a good number of wins on the trot, on the back of beating Wigan. I don't know. Are we sometimes guilty, Gary, of building up the opposition because we know what's gone before? When actually,
I think that's just,
I don't know. Is that a fear?
It's really weird, isn't it? I'm just looking at the league table here, and I can see they're 7th, but they're the 4th best point scoring side in the league. Although we're 160 odd ahead of them, points scored so far. I think I'm a glass half full person, right? So I think we'll do the business on them. I really, really do. I don't think we've got anything to fear. However, I think generally, as a Rovers supporter, you've always got that little bit of doubt in your mind, haven't you? And we always think, what if? But I don't. I think we'll be. I think we'll be. And I get laughed at quite a lot on Facebook and stuff like that because I'm not on Twitter, Max. It's a bit too shouty for me. So I said Catalans 42-0 will win, and everybody was like, no, they'll come back. They've been on a training camp, and you couldn't tell, could you? Really, you couldn't really tell. I think Wakefield. I think that was probably their. Now, I think for me, that was probably their pinnacle. Beating Wigan, I think we'll, and this is going to come back to haunt me now, isn't it? And it's going to get played over and over again. I think we'll do the business on them at home. I think we'll show them what a proper rugby league team is.
Well, to be fair, Max, I mean, when you look at the stats, I mean, we've played 20 games. That includes Challenge Cup fixtures. So we've played every game that we can possibly play in this season. 13 of them games, we've scored 30 plus points. So we're not in a sphere of going, oh, maybe we might. At the moment, like Gary's quite right to be confident in it because not only are we winning, we're winning by scoring lots of points. And it's uncharted territory for a lot of Rove supporters because it's been a long, long time where we've been in this position. But actually, we are in this position because of 𝗀𝗧𝗐𝗏𝗏 and the players. We've backed it up in terms of previous performances. So for me, I look at Wakefield. Yeah, they've been doing great. They haven't been doing that great, though, because they've won 8 and lost 7. So, and maybe Wigan, maybe Wigan aren't that great.
Well, it's weird, isn't it? Because when you look at Wakefield, there's a lot of similarities between us as a club and them as a club. They've been down there, they've got relegated, and they've come back stronger. And the players that they've got, they're not big, they're not superstars, but they put the graft in and they do the job and they do it well. And a lot of the players there, they've got that, I don't know what his name is, he's got that daft haircut, and he looks like he's put his head in an hairdryer. But he's brilliant, him. And he's come from, did he come from somewhere in the Queensland Cup or something like that? New South Wales Cup, but
yeah, he played a few games. I think he played a few NRL, and then he's come through from there.
But yeah, and also Wakefield as well. They've given us some games over the years. I think we didn't play them last season, did we? But the season before that, well, say that we pumped them a few times, but they're still. I think when we played them Was it our place? They still give us a game, didn't they? What was it?
Yeah.
22 something, I think.
Well, I say what, Gary. Every time Rovers have gone into a game where someone's gone, oh, this might be a tricky one. Normally we lose this one. Oh, I don't know what to work. Not only have Rovers won, they've absolutely battered it back with a plum. And this is another one where I go, yeah, Wakefield are great. Wakefield have done well. They're on a decent run. For me, they're missing probably one of the best players that they've had this season. I can't see anything beyond the Rovers' victory because I just look at our team and we're an absolute machine. And just got what Rovers are great with is if that play comes out, that play goes in, and you don't even notice it. You don't
notice it, do you?
Step up. And what is great about Rovers, I think, for me, is they cannot wait for the next game. They train, of course they do, but they are ready for game. They are match ready. They're almost like so fit, so energized, so focused on the end result that they want the next game. Not only do they want the next game, when they're in the game, going for the jugular. They honestly, mate, I just think
the efforts aren't there. You notice it. I think you notice it this season more than last season and the season before and the season before. You notice the efforts, don't you, being put in by players in defence, I think. Yeah,
it goes back to Broadbent, doesn't it? The Broadbent tackle against Castleford, it goes back to
just players pushing players back and trying to get back to 10. You know, it's easy, isn't it, to give a penalty away when you're tired and you don't quite get back there and you run back up and you make that tackle and you give a penalty away. How many penalties have we had against us for not being back to 10 this season? I don't know. It's a question. I'm sure somebody knows, but I'm just looking at the stats again. We know we're only shipping 8.1 points per game in Super League. So we can quite confidently go into this game knowing we're in a position where the majority of the crowd can say we should win this game. Yeah.
Excellent. So that brings us right through to question time. Max, I tell you what, Jules on Instagram, she said, do you think the May brothers might all end up playing for Rovers now? Tyrone is staying for 2 years. Obviously, the big talk was about the May brothers all playing together. The natural expectation was that would be in the NRL, wouldn't it? Because Terrell for playing for West. Of course, latterly, Taylor's gone there on trial. I don't think he signed a contract yet, but he is on trial there. Everybody expected then Tyrone May to go, but he signed a 2-year deal. Actually, are we in a position, which probably goes a bit beyond this question, Max, but actually, do you think we've got the pulling power now to bring in them players to go, actually, yeah, the NRL's great. You want to come and play here? Like, come on. You know, I mean, let alone talking about positions and where players may fit in. But are we in that sphere now, do you think, where we actually could pull them players into us rather than thinking that Tyrone would go that way?
I think now, when a player's in the NRL and they're looking to come to a Super League club, I think, like I say, it was always your Saints or your Wiggins or your Leeds that used to get the big names, didn't they? Well, I think we do have the pulling power because now we've won the Challenge Cup, haven't we? So now the next thing that we can win is the grand final. I think that's a big thing because everyone wants to be in that team that wins it for the first time. And I think that was a big thing with maybe keeping Tyrone is that, I mean, you'd want to sign him, wouldn't you? Because that'd be it. But then I think, on the other hand, do you need him?
Well,
I think
I say you, Max. Don't forget as well, Max. Right? There's a reason Nathan Cleary was on a plane over to England for the grand final, and he was rocking up with a Rover shirt on.
yeah,
I tell you what, there's a player who made that, Tyrone May. So
Yeah.
he's in the ear of some of the best players who are playing rugby league right now. So that goes. So, and for him, do you know what surprised me, Gary, about Tyrone May? It wasn't the fact it was a 1 year deal; it was a 2 year deal,
and it was kept quiet until the announcement.
Yeah. So for the 2, it was a 2 years that made my ears up, because I thought, it was just on a year-to-year contract, and see, the 2 years is a firm commitment to the Robins.
Yeah. This is what I think. I think players want to play for winning teams. Yeah. Players want to play for teams where they know they're going to fit in and be winners. I reckon when we win the League Leaders' Shield and probably the grand final, that's when the decision will be made by whoever. I think then that we'll see a lot of movement, and then there's no, to answer the question, yes, potentially, and I don't see no reason why that can't be a possibility.
Yeah, it's shifted, hasn't it? Right, let's go to Facebook. Question time. Pat O'Connor, he says, I know every player needs game time, but are we worried about Doro going out on loan? Such a good player and brings a spark and excitement. Just following on from that, Max, Willie Peters, I think he was asked a question in the pre-game press conference this week. Yeah, I think he was asked specifically about Doro, about if someone came in from on loan. I think Peters batted it back by saying, well, every player is in the conversation in terms of going out on loan. If it's the right deal for that player at that time, then there's a deal to be had. What surprised me, Max, is actually I didn't think Doro would get as much game time as he's had already. I thought he'd be more of a fringe player, and actually through injuries probably, but his progression to the first team has probably been accelerated a bit more.
Yeah, I think the problem with Doro is when he played for us that first time, was it Saints, wasn't it? His first game was against Saints. He did that one steaming run, didn't he? But then it came up, was it four knock-ons or something like that, which is fair enough.
3 knock-ons, it was free, yeah.
Is it free?
3 knock-ons, yeah.
And at the minute, that could lead to us, errors like that for us, that could mean a lot. If we slip up a game, that's us out back in the race for Wigan, innit? And I think if he does go out on loan, I don't see how it can hurt him. I don't see how it can affect us, because if he goes out and he gets injured, it's no difference for him playing for us and getting injured. So in sport, you're always going to have that risk of injury, aren't you? So
I think at the end of the day, Gary, I think Willie Peters is very firm on the fact that he just wants players playing. Obviously, the reserve grade comp isn't to the level that most Super League clubs want, or so the fact that if Doro, for example, could go to, I don't know, Salford for 2 or 3 weeks and play games when he's most likely not to feature for the Robins, it's another deal like the Dan Richardson one where you go, well, surely that benefits the player, both clubs. It's a bit of a no-brainer.
Just confirm to me, has he? Because I've probably missed some news. Has he gone on loan somewhere? Has he?
No. The question was about potentially him going out, and
right, okay.
If he did, would that weaken us? And
all right, yeah. Okay.
But ultimately, if he's not going to be in the first team, he needs just to be playing somewhere. And if he can play, for example, Super League.
It's that risk. It's that risk versus reward, isn't it? I think if he goes somewhere on loan for 2 weeks, that means potentially he's back for the 𝗀𝗵𝗄𝗃 away game, fit and strong and having had game time. But the risk is he gets injured. So you need to, but it's a bit, that I think when players go on loan, Willie Peters is probably looking 2 or 3 games ahead.
Yeah, I mean, next question, Ian Dixon. Thanks for sending it in, Ian, on Facebook. He says, with the club signing more out-of-town youngsters I'm guessing no Booth. Eric Dorrow probably falls into that category. Do you see the likes of Gorman, Tennyson, Barley, etc.? Where do you see them, when it comes to contract renewals? Watching the reserves against that lot the other weekend, some of their youngsters were head and shoulders above some of our future stars. It's a loaded. There's lots of questions within a question there. I suppose, Gary, when you look at, there is a big question mark still, isn't there, about the academy and the desire to put young kids who are coming through at 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, the pathway for them to get into the first team seems to be stunted a little bit.
Yeah.
I suppose the point with that is you only get in if you're good enough. And, it's a real tough one, isn't it?
It's tough. And we all, I keep saying this, don't I? And me and Steve are probably old enough to remember what we are. We used to have Colts and A teams when there was supposedly less money around in the game, So I think yes, the potential is for players that aren't the reserve team competition in Super League isn't where it should be, is it, at the moment? So those homegrown players aren't being fed through as well as they could be or should be, So yes, I think to answer the question, yes, I think there is probably some risk of us not having as many homegrown players in the next 3 or 4 seasons as we should or could have.
Yeah, and I suppose I want to temper that because Ian's right about what he's saying, but it's not that they're not good enough. It's just they're not able to fit into the side when the players above them are such a high level, and for them players who are maybe not featuring who've come through the academy, it's not because they've had bad coaching. It's not because the experience is bad. It's just I tell you what, it's a dog eat dog world. It's like and if you're a first team coach, you've got to put your best team out, regardless. Like the conversation, Max, we had earlier. The squad news is, of course, that Burgess is back in for the squad for Wakefield.
Martin.
But a lot of people go, no, we're both. Well, he should carry on playing. And Willie Peters has been quite firm about, no, if Joe Burgess is in the side, he's playing.
I think what it comes down to is, would you rather have a team full of academy players that have come through
from East Hull or living Hull,
or win a Challenge Cup?
Yeah.
You're not, what I mean? It's one of them, innit?
Yeah. You're right. You're right. I tell you what, Max, with KR pairing up, this is Bazza. I'm sure he's stuck in his lorry right now while he's listening to that.
Whenever I see his name, I just think of him in his truck. That's
his Rolls Royce.
Yeah,
he calls it a truck. It's more like a Rolls Royce. Anyway, with KR pairing up with the Cowboys, do you think it would be a good idea for us to go out to Australia and do a pre-season next year?
Definitely.
Well, I don't think it'll be next year with them going to Vegas, but I'm all in favour of them going to. And of course, there's been talk about the academy going out and doing a tour, synergy between. There's lots of potential there, isn't there? About what we could do. Hopefully, who knows? We might meet each other in a World Club Challenge, and it won't have to be a manufactured game. It's actually what should be happening. Heather Lamb, she says, where does Willie see Rovers in the next 2 years? Are there any plans to bring Cowboys to Rovers? Hey, it's a good point, that, isn't it, Max? Isn't it? Instead of Rovers going to Australia, what about bringing the North Queensland Cowboys to East Hull?
Yeah.
What about them having a tour?
Yeah. Be good to see them in the Punch Pub, wouldn't it?
It would be absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so there's it goes 2 ways. Leon Collins, he says, with the rumours of Dazan wanting the rights to rugby league, both the NRL and Super League, would you be happy to see Dazan take over rugby league broadcasting, or would you like it to stay with traditional broadcasters like Sky? it means better presentation and more outreach for the sport, then I don't know. I'm just happy for whoever pays top dollar, because ultimately it's a good point about coverage and do you know what, I think Sky get a bit of a bad rap sometimes, because ultimately I do like size coverage, and I think since since they've changed the presenters and stuff like that, I do think it's got a lot better. It's a bit more analytical. It's a bit
sometimes
more...
with Sky though, it's the little things that I do that are annoying. I think, like when you're watching it, they'll go to a coach sometimes, and you think, well, I love Willie Peters, but I don't just want to stare at him for 2 seconds when we've just made a break, or when they show replay.
Aren't you, where they literally pan to Sam Burgess every time?
Yeah,
he was still on the touchline. And
he's just with his iPod earphones in, yeah.
And he's just stood there, isn't he? It's not like Danny Maguire where he's kicking up a bit of a fuss in his coaching box. And it's another thing. Sometimes they'll show a replay, and they've got the full screens of the replay, and in the corner they've got a little box of the live game going on. To me, that's the wrong way around.
The biggest point for me is we need a broadcaster who's going to invest more money than what's currently being invested, because ultimately the game's lacking serious investment. And as much as you might bring IMG in, you might change the, who's running the game, until there's that big pot of money, nothing's changing. Nothing serious is changing. You need that big pot of money. So
and that's at the really top. That's at the really top, isn't it? And when you come down the pyramid of how that trickles down, for me, I'm a bit like Max with this, watching on the telly. The cameras just need to be a bit of a better quality, because
for the replays?
The replays are absolutely, you can't tell anything. I sound like a right whinging old fucker, don't I? But yeah, it does my head in.
Yeah, it's that bad. You probably have to take your glasses off to see it properly.
I do. Yeah. Give them to the dog. Can you hear what the fuck's going on there?
I tell you what, right, that brings us to the end of question time, but I've got one last question to ask before we finish. Gary, I'll start with you. How good is it to see Rhyse Matin back in the squad for Friday's game against Wakefield?
Yes, it's very good. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do in an already great team. I think I can't wait. I really can't. I'll be even more glass half full if he starts.
Yeah, and of course, Rhyse Matin's inclusion, of course, is tempered by the fact that James Batchelor is now missing. He's going to see a throat specialist. He picked up an injury that we don't know what it quite is yet. The rumours are it could potentially be 6 weeks that he's out for. Of course, don't forget, we saw Sean Kennedy-Dowell, didn't we? When he had to see a throat specialist. He didn't change his voice because he was already quite grufty. But he was out for a number of weeks with his injury. James Batchelor, of course, Max, has been pivotal to this side, hasn't he? He's another player, I think, like when Willie Peters came in, he spotted Dean Hadley and said, I need him in my team. Yeah. Batchelor, of course, he was signed prior to Willie Peters coming in to the club. But he's another one who's a linchpin of the side. He's going to be a huge miss. But it's tempered by the fact that Rhyse Matin is now back in that 21-man squad. And I've got no doubt, if he's named in that 21-man squad, it's not a token effort. It's because he's ready to play. Yeah,
I think even though Martin's a big name player in that, we haven't really missed him though, have we? To be fair,
and that's the quality of the squad, isn't it? That is the recruitment. That is the squad that they've built up.
I wonder if he'll be kicking now. I think he'd stick with Mark for kicking now.
Gary, who are you going for kicker? Because if Rhyse Matin and Artem August going toe-to-toe, who are you going to put your money on?
Oh, Christ. You know what? I'd put my money on Morg.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because Rhyse Matin
is very tough, yeah.
So big, and you know, is he a lot of pressure on him?
Right?
Potentially, Max. Go on, Gary. Go on.
I was going to say, sorry, I don't. To be fair, we don't need a kicker, do we? We're winning games by that much. That's a bit flippant, sorry, but we are.
No, you're right. No, but that's the great thing about this team, that where the kicking's not actually pivotal. Be interesting to know, Max, how much kicking Rhyse Matin has done.
I think you stick with Morg because was it Martin's hip he went out with or leg or something like that, wasn't it? So I just think you try and limit him to as least amount of risk as possible. So if that means him missing out on kicking for a few weeks, and to be fair, he doesn't need to be kicking, does he? We've got Morg. So
well, it's a good point because I remember when Martin got injured and he pulled up, didn't he, after the kick?
Quadricep it was.
Yeah, so I just think maybe stick with Morg, but you've got a great backup, haven't you? You've got fancy. Hey, we'll see on Friday night, won't we, at Craven Park when we take on Wakefield Trinity. It's going to be another intriguing counter. Of course, we've got the lineup to look forward to, and we haven't even mentioned the fact that 𝗀𝗲𝗏𝗏 and Mickey McAlorum potentially could be available for next week's game after Wakefield. So there's lots and lots of options. As we started the Robin pod, Gary, it's a great time to be a Robin. Of course, everyone's going to the game on Friday night. It's going to be loud and proud. It's going to be another special night under the floodlights. Gary, Max, I tell you what, fantastic contribution. Huge thanks to Steve Till for Robins Revisited. But for now, live, love, laugh and be happy.
Singing a song when the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing. When the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing. When the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing along.
The Robin Pod is powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre. Make them your first and only choice for a vast array of vehicle services. They are a reputable East Hull-based car specialist and dedicated to providing quality services at reasonable prices. And don't forget, they are trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. Find them at 146 Leeds Road and ask them about the exclusive discount they offer Hull KR Rovers Forever members.